Hello, I'm T-Rex. This is not motivation. You can call me T-Prescription or whatever you want. This is actually going to be, I think, a series of interviews that just kind of open up who Chris Prezafundant is, and it'll be more of an in-depth, more focused topic this time instead of just the general gist of what's going on. So anyways, let's go ahead and call him.
Hello, how are you?
How's it going, Chris?
There it goes, T-Rex. Try not to say your name.
Yeah, it's no biggie. I'm gonna try to. Can you say something a little bit so I can bring down your mic because it's a little hot?
Yeah, actually, I could bring it down myself.
Oh, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Testing. 1 2 1 2 1 2. How's this?
That's perfect.
All right. I took it down a couple notches there.
So the other day, we kind of had a little brief text, whatever, back and forth, and I was saying that I'd like to talk about
policies.
Well, no, actually not policies this time. More of like exposure to drugs and how the American population it's like taboo to a certain point to speak about or to be aware of it, but at the same time there's a significant built-in drug culture at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it definitely doesn't help not talking about it because there's all sorts of. Are you recording or?
Yeah, we're good to go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was just mentioning this on the bus the other day to like some random passenger. But like we could have like there's so many people that die, and it's not just famous people, but I was using the example at the time of famous people like Heath Ledger. He was a very good actor, and because of this, like, oh, we're not supposed to talk about it. It's illegal, wrong, bad. If America's society was a little more open about it, that dude might still be alive today. And same with a ton of people. Like a ton of people that I don't know them, but if it wasn't so taboo and everything like you were saying, then yeah, definitely we could save lives. Because this being silent about it, shaming drugs, and just being very punitive when people get caught, especially poorer people. And then the racial disparity, of course, how the drug laws are enforced. I mean, it's a very kind of complicated issue with a lot of nuance, to it. But I'm all for being open myself. Like I just took ecstasy, or no, not. I mean, I would like to take ecstasy, but anyway, I took some acid a few months ago, and I really, really feel that helped me with my PTSD that I think I have. I haven't been officially diagnosed, but I've been through a lot of trauma, and I seem to be on this negative brain loop that I just couldn't get myself out of until. And it didn't happen right away, but I felt good at the time when I recently had taken the acid, and it was just 4 hits over the course. Like I took it every 5 days or something, 1 hit every 5 days. So it was almost for a full month. But I had that the positive effects had reverberated to a more positive, place where I am right now today. I sound, I think, a little bit better than what I did 8 or so months ago.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of stuff about things like that, especially like microdosing fungus or whatever, magic mushrooms, or
Oh yeah, I'm trying to head over to Denver to move over to Denver, and they at least decriminalized, I think, mushrooms. Yeah. So I think the sale of it is still prohibited, but just like having them, they're not going to mess with you.
Right.
And that's a nice step in the right direction. I mean, we could do a little bit better. We could legalize these things. Like a lot of these, and that's probably where the cartels will probably be maybe upset at me, but I think, I could make the case that, hey, why don't you guys just legalize your shit? You guys could run a business, pay fucking taxes on your business, and then pay taxes through your payroll as well.
Right.
And the government will make a bunch of money off it. Then we're not wasting a bunch of money locking people up. Like, it's so beneficial, I think. Like,
yeah, they're already
just
set up.
knock off the war on drugs.
They're already set up because of the production and the connections and stuff. So why not just legitimize it and regulate it and all that and make it safer for everybody? And yeah, it makes so much more sense. But they just keep pushing it like, oh, well, it's too bad for our society and we really shouldn't even have that type of stuff, when they knowingly know that certain drugs are, you know, if you regulate them, that people just don't really care, you know, like certain countries, they make it complete, like basically everything legal, and they have less addiction, not less crime, but less crime associated with those specific drugs, you know, and they may have more crime in other areas or because of poverty and whatnot, but people aren't using those drugs as not just a relief.
At a greater rate than we are.
Right. And that to me, that's crazy, because if it's supposedly so taboo and it's so bad for you, but so many people still consume drugs at the rate at which we do, then there's some sort of disconnect.
Well, I think some of our, like, the reason why America does drugs at such a higher rate too is because so many Americans, like by the millions, are suffering. And when you're down and out and you have lost your way in life and you're not at your best, it's easy to fall into that, using drugs. And then a lot of these drugs are addictive. Well, not a lot, but some of them are very addictive,
right,
like heroin and meth. I have a mentally handicapped friend, and I feel really bad for her because she's hopelessly addicted to meth as well. And a lot of people say that that's her problem, but it's like she doesn't treat her mental illness at all. And that's the main problem I see. But a lot of people that are not, they're being disingenuous or whatever, they're just like, oh, well, it's the drugs. And it's like, no, the drugs makes her mind even worse. But like, it's that underlying mental health issue or issues that she has that she doesn't ever treat.
That was actually originally the topic. I was on Twitter was having an argument with somebody, and I'm totally not against regulating drugs and for everybody to have, access to them. But at the same time, we also have to have treatment. We also have to have awareness. We have to have education. We have to have all these systems in place for people to understand. And we also have to have empathy for those people who get hooked on them, because all three of my sisters were hooked on meth at one point. And one of them lost her kids for years and struggled and went through all kinds of just hell because her ex was like, hey, you want to try this? And then she did. And then boom, she's fucking hooked. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that easy. It's literally that easy. Someone you love and care about offers it to you, or a friend or family or whoever. And then boom, you're fucking in so deep you can't get out of it, and then the world looks at you like you're just a piece of trash and you're worthless. But all it really is nobody really cares to help.
You're struggling.
Yeah, nobody cares to help.
Yeah, well, that too.
You have to help yourself. That's one part of it, and we kind of argued about that. It's like, it's not about wanting to help yourself, because I wanted to help myself get out of that shit, and I did. But not everybody can do that, especially if you're on a much harder drug, say like meth or heroin. You know what I'm saying? Mine was alcohol and uppers and shit. It's cool. Go ahead.
No, I can't even imagine the struggle. The only way I could sort of relate is just through my addiction through cigarettes. I've tried quitting smoking 5 times this year, and it is so difficult. And it is always so tempting when I am like not smoking cigarettes. When someone's smoking around me, I don't get pissy like that because it's something that I have to deal with. I don't order other people around. Like, how dare you do that around me? But when they are doing it around me, it's like, man, I got like $1 in my pocket. I could so offer this for like a cigarette, and I could only imagine what it's like, with heroin or meth addiction.
Well, and what you're saying there, though, it's not really much different. The actual addiction itself, the only difference is what you get out of the addiction. So say you smoke cigarettes. You get a little kind of a buzz, lightheaded. You get that kind of not really a nervous rush, but you know what I'm saying. It's like it feels like a little bit of a slight rush, and then it dissipates after 10 minutes or whatever. But then you have that calmness.
Yeah.
Well, it's similar to any other drug. It's just not as extreme. It doesn't affect your body as quickly. It takes maybe 50 or 60 years to do the same damage that
I still have my teeth
an ounce
and
of
everything.
heroin can do to you in a week or whatever. So it's still the same effect, just not on the same level, but the actual addiction is the same thing. Like you said, I tried to quit 5 times. How many times do you think people who try to quit heroin, it's not the first time when they finally quit, you know what I'm saying? Or if they get that far,
Usually it's not,
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
So
it's just like, I hate how we, like these are our friends, these are our neighbors and other fellow citizens and fellow human beings, to just be more broad there. But I hate how we have the punitive measure in America when it comes to drugs.
right.
It's just very punitive, and these are family and our friends and our loved ones. We may not know them personally, but someone does know them personally.
Right.
And we need to just knock off the hate. It's kind of just to sum it up, how I feel.
Before I lose my thought, it's one thing to have, you catch somebody who's got tainted drugs and he's giving them out to kids or some crazy shit like that. Yeah, that's fucking uncalled for. But if someone's got some legit good product and they're selling it to adults, and you know what I mean, and they're not ripping people off or putting guns in people's faces and shit, I don't really see a problem with it, But it's just when our economy is crashing, obviously the pandemic had to help with that, but that's something that we can't really do. But it kind of exposed what's going on. Like, people started realizing, more people are having issues with alcoholism or just drugs in general because of the situation. Well, yeah, when your situation worsens, what do? You double down. If that's all you know, that's where you go.
Well, I mean, people lose their way too. Like, I mean, people end up homeless. They've been playing by the rules. They've been following these, what they were told as, when they were growing up, and then they get fucked anyway. And then, that could really fuck people's heads up. I've been through that.
Right.
I mean, I could have really lost myself with heroin or meth myself, although I think I am mentally strong, although I do lose my way from time to time. Sorry, I forgot my train of thought.
That's no biggie.
Damn marijuana. But I wanted to jump in just really quick and just add, that, like, I think there are certain drugs that can be given to, like, teenagers. Specifically, like certain amounts of alcohol or weed. Because teenagers do that shit anyway. I started smoking marijuana at 14.
Yeah.
I don't think I turned out that bad.
Yeah, I was 13 when I first smoked weed, but then it was, just here and there. And then when I was 14, I kind of got into it, started buying my own stuff and hanging out with friends that basically all we did was smoke. So I get that. I would probably pull back on the alcohol myself because...
Maybe parental supervision or something like that? Like, it's okay to do,
it's one thing if you got,
gotta
like,
have your parents around.
Your 18-year-old college student wants to hang out with his buddies on the weekend, no big deal. I can't see a big issue with that. They're not driving, they're not going nowhere. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But 14, that's kind of I was exposed to
14
alcohol.
Definitely not with alcohol. But marijuana is like I would make the exception for marijuana.
I would say
definitely,
16, like driving age. You know what I mean? That's I wouldn't say you should smoke and drive or anything like that. It would, like it'd be like a DUI, just any other DUI. But because I actually I don't know if anybody really knows this, but I bet a lot more people will know now. I shared some with my daughter. Actually, I had not smoked in like 10 years because it'd been like 8 years. I was welding at the time. And a buddy of mine was like, man, this guy I know has this killer weed, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't smoke it. You want to try some out? And I was like, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But I'll take some just to hang on to it, just in case, whatever. And then my daughter's 16th birthday rolls around. I was like, I'll see if she wants to try it and see if she's ever had it. And she told me she had tried it once before. And so I was like, here, have at it. And she smoked it, basically took like 3 hits and then went upstairs and fell asleep for the rest of the night. You know what I mean? That was her first experience with some.
It wasn't even the giggles or anything for a little bit?
We
you know,
sat there and talked for like 5 minutes, and then she's like, I feel tired. And when she literally went to bed at like 6:30 in the evening, you know.
Oh, man, you got her some indica then.
Right. Well, yeah.
Got to do the sativa.
So I think that her first experience with it was like, it was such a headbanger. She was like, well, that's too damn much for me. And then I guess she started hanging out with friends when she got, 18, 19 years old and started getting back into it. So it was like, I feel like me exposing it to her early was kind of not like a great thing, but in a way kind of a good thing, because she didn't go out and find some shit from somewhere else. She isn't getting influenced by people who don't know what they're talking about or doing. And I explained to her, like, you can't be doing this out in public. If you do it with friends, don't do it in their bedrooms at their house, because their parents could barge in and you're all in trouble, or they could call the cops on you, because I've dealt with friends' parents that have done stuff like that, and all these things that you gotta go through.
So harsh
because of the illegality at the time. And then it's not illegal anymore. So, it's, recreational.
Yeah, I wish you would have had a better experience with your daughter, though, like where she was just kind of giggling and you guys were talking about whatever for like
Well, now
hours.
We do that all the time. There's Thursday night football and Sunday night football. They come over, we hang out and eat dinner together, and then have a smoke break afterward, and we laugh and have fun, and so.
And what you did with your daughter is something that gives trust. Like if there's something else that she's getting into, something hardcore, she'll be more open to you about that now, because you've had that experience. At least that's what I think.
Right, and she would even ask.
I think it's all very positive.
She would even ask, well, when you were young, did you try this? Did you do that? And I would tell her exactly what I felt about it, because there were certain drugs where there was this huge taboo behind it, especially acid, and it had been demonized my entire life. Like, you can't control yourself and you're out of reality and all this stuff, which kind of, you're on the verge.
Rape women.
You're going to go jump off a roof and rip your own face off and do all these stupid things. And it's like, oh, I see the corners are kind of wavy. And I giggled for like 8 hours and I drank like 10 beers and I felt like I didn't, that's about the hardest thing, which is probably not healthy, but it's like you guys made it out to be like a demonic experience, like I was going to go to hell and back, and it was more of the same, like a euphoric state. And all those times when I was a kid, when my parents were standing there holding a beer telling me, you should never do drugs, and they're fucking been tipsy for 24/7 my entire life, it's like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, my stepdad, check this out, he worked for my grandpa. He helped him on his farm. And I found out the reason why he allowed him to do that was because my grandpa was actually a closet smoker. And my stepdad, he was fully against it, but it made him money. And he had a landscaping/horticulture business. So he just grew it out at my grandpa's farm. I had no idea until I was like 15 that they were doing this. And then I looked back and I talked to my mom. I was like, I remember all that compost and stuff that was in the basement, because I was like, dude, this stinks so bad in the basement. We have to get rid of these garbage bags. There's garbage bags full of them. We have to get rid of it. Oh, that's your dad's compost. He needs that for the farm. It was like $20,000, $30,000 worth of weed, and I had no idea when I was like 10, but and then later on, thinking back, my mom told me, well, your stepdad grew weed out at the farm, and then immediately clicked, like, all that fucking bullshit I got my entire life about not touching it, don't go around it, it's evil, fucking, it's the worst thing that you could do. And then I find out that literally I was growing up in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how dare they, first of all, and secondly, it's not nearly the worst drug ever. I mean, maybe for a 10-year-old or something, but it's I don't know. I feel like alcohol, like, people look at alcohol like, oh, it's no big deal, but my stepdad ended up running over a lady and her
Alcohol's
dog.
so destructive.
He got a manslaughter charge and served years because he was drinking and driving and ran over an old lady and her dog. But it's no big deal. You know what I'm saying? But if he was
That's an interesting
smoking
magic
weed
trick
on the
how
couch
they're like,
watching cartoons, he's fucking crazy and fucked up. It's like, what the hell's going on in the world, you know?
I know, yeah. It's an interesting magic trick how they're like, you know, drugs are bad, but alcohol here is different. And it's like, no, it's not. Now I understand alcohol is a very social drug, you know, and it kind of loosens you up, makes you a little more chatty. You know, if you're nervous, like talking with women or men or something, you know, and that's why there will always be bars forever. But
yeah, I don't think they should take it away from
different.
people. I'm not saying that they should take it away from people. I think it should. I think alcohol is probably one of the scariest drugs because it's so easily to access. It's been, you know, given to people at a young age. I was drinking at like 5, 6 years old. My uncle would hand me a beer and thinking, oh, he's not gonna fucking drink, he's gonna spit it out or whatever, and I just chugged the whole thing, you know. And then like, you got another one, you know, because to me it was like soda, because, you know, it's like alcoholism ingrained into my DNA, which is why I have such an issue with it. But I'm not trying to demonize alcohol. I'm just saying it's got some effects, like especially, you know, you get drunk and you go drive, you're probably not gonna. Okay, a lot of people are lucky and get home safe, but a lot of people aren't, is what I'm saying, you know. So
oh yeah, like I don't think definitely drinking and driving, but like I do make an exception. Like I would trust an airline pilot that was a regular weed smoker, not their first time, okay, because you gotta know what the effects are on you. But I would trust an airline pilot to smoke a joint before he flew a plane. I would not trust an airline pilot to have a shot or two of some hard alcohol before he flew a plane. Like, that's the difference. Like,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting
kind of
at.
like in between. I see it kind of in like you could take Tylenol, and that's a drug, and you could go drive. Now you could take like 50 Tylenol and not be okay to drive too.
Right.
So there's the know what the effects are on you before you drive or operate heavy machinery kind of clause that I have in my head. Acid is definitely stupid to drive, you know, on.
Yeah, I've never attempted that.
I did have ecstasy like back in my 20s, and I was able to, you know, like I didn't get any visuals, although I was like clenching my jaw a lot, and I was really thirsty, and I couldn't stop like rubbing myself, like rubbing my arms.
Sounds like you had some LSA. It's a derivative of LSD, and
yeah,
it's just you get kind of a body buzz, but you don't really get the visuals too strong.
Yeah, I was okay to drive then too. Like I kind of self-assessed. Like when I used to get out of my dance club, sometimes I would have like a Red Bull and vodka, and you know I would close my eyes and kind of turn 360 degrees and see how accurate I was when I opened up my eyes. And that would be kind of like my self-assessment test to see if I was impaired enough or not. But being slightly impaired isn't a thing either, because, well, for me, because like people go off to work and they're at 100% when they wake up in the morning or whenever they wake up. And then they go off to work for like 8, 10, 12 hours, and then they come home. And during that trip home, they're not at 100%.
Oh, yeah, I know.
They are slightly impaired, you know, because of the draining of their work or tasks, whatever they had to do at their job. And so like, again, that little clause, like know what the effects are on you, you know, before you drive or operate heavy machinery. You know, people drive rush hour all the time, not at 100%, and we seem to do somewhat all right with that. Although people totally sober and everything, you know, I would admit here can't drive. You know, there's just some people that just don't know how to drive. I'm sure you've been in the vehicle with someone as they're making a turn, they're holding the steering wheel and they're jerking it throughout the entire turn. Yeah. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? You got to be smooth about it. Like, you know, like, thanks for the whiplash, you know, like. And they're totally sober, you know, but they just can't drive worth a shit.
Well, I have a short little story that turned into a giant part of my life. I was coming home after a 12-hour shift of working 13 days. It was my 13th day. I'm sorry, 16 hours. Did I say 16-hour shift? So anyway, 16 hours. It's sunset. I'm making a left in a intersection that has basically the center lanes overlap. So my center straight lane or my turn lane is lined up with the straight lane. So they have to kind of swerve a little bit to get around me if I pull out into the lane. So I had pulled out about half a car length into the lane. Car 1 passes, car 2 passes. I see car 3, but they're traveling much faster than I realized, but I think they're going the same speed as the other 2 cars, so I figured I had enough time, and I start to go, and I realize, oh shit, I don't have enough time to get all the way through this, and in that split second, I think, can I hit reverse and back up? But as I thought that, it was boom, I got hit, you know what I'm saying? And that was just me being exhausted from, working all those hours, being tired, not paying 100% full attention and all this stuff. And I hadn't smoked or drank in 8 years, at least 7 years at that point. And because that was in 2014, and I had my DUI in 2007 in June, on June 1st, 2007. So, it had been at least 7 years since I had touched drugs or alcohol. So it had nothing to do with the accident. You know what I'm saying? So, and it was all about just being exhausted from life, So I can totally understand that.
Man.
Well, it was kind of her
guiding.
Well, she admitted that she was traveling too fast for, the intersection that she did. And she said that she swerved into me on purpose, because she thought I was going faster than she thought I was actually turning, but I was actually almost at a stop when it happened. And she said she headed into me thinking that would save her kids by, not having my car hit the side of her car. So she figured if the front hit, they would have airbag protection and whatnot, which is they did fully deploy, and she got out and wandered around without her kids. I ended up getting out and taking her kids to her when that happened, but that's beside the point. My point is that it wasn't either fully our faults. We were just, both trying to get where we were going, doing what we were doing, just being humans, and mistakes were made without drugs involved. So it's not like drugs caused some shit to happen, is what I'm saying in that situation. And I'm not saying that drugs can't. I'm just saying that certain situations people would expect something like that to have been involved when it doesn't necessarily have to be that way.
Yeah. I mean, accidents happen naturally, but I'm curious, do you remember if there was like guiding lines? Because I've seen a few weird intersections like that where the oncoming traffic is kind of coming at you, but they got to veer off a little bit because you're in the opposite left turn lane.
Well,
but every time I've seen an intersection like that, I've seen like dotted white guiding lines to guide people to not swerve into the left turn lane.
If you're going north and south, there are. If you're going east and west, there aren't, because there's railroad tracks going across it diagonally. It's this big, huge, weird intersection with like a hill and a dip, and it's a funky intersection. So, and it's actually,
I know, but they could paint lines on the ground.
In the town that I live in, it's the most accident-prone intersection that we have. And they have like 4 sets of lights, 1 set of light for each lane. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just a crazy intersection that people get into accidents all the time on. But
yeah, it sounds like a poorly designed intersection.
It definitely is.
Someone like on meth or something.
And what's crazy is all but that day, I normally avoid that intersection because there's so much buildup of traffic. I usually turn a block before that and kind of there's a stop sign. If you make a left and then turn right at the stop sign and make a left at the stop sign, you can avoid the light completely, which is, it usually saves like 3 to 5 minutes because of, backed up traffic at the intersection during rush hour. Anyway, the one day I don't do that, I get in an accident.
Oh yeah, that's, go figure, right? Lesson learned, huh?
Right.
I always got to, turn the street beforehand now.
So, speaking of accidents, I did have a DUI in '07, and that was 100% my fault. I went to a birthday party with a friend, got tipsy. They dropped me off at the house. But they had invited me to an after party. So I stupidly took my girlfriend's car, which was a month from being paid off, and I drove there just fine. But on the way back, I was 2.5, 3 blocks from our house, and I hit some railroad tracks, going probably a little too fast. I was probably going 40 and a 30. Hit those railroad tracks. The car broke. One of the front axles broke. I spun out. I could have, if I would have spun to the right, I would have killed a guy or cut him in half because he was sitting smoking a cigarette on his station wagon, in between the station wagon and the van. I would have hit the van and it would have just smashed him in half. But instead, I went to the left and I went sideways through one of those big power poles and just broke it in half, and that spun the car back around straight, which it ran me sideways into a ramp driveway, and then the engine was inside the car and there was smoke everywhere, and I got out and ran around the car to see the damage, and that guy must have not been paying attention because he said cops and fire department that I had ran off. But anyways, I ran up to the first house, knocked on the door. Nobody answered. The power was out in the entire neighborhood, so they probably thought it was like an invasion because it sounded like a bomb going off and then someone beating on your door. I probably wouldn't answer the door either. So then I went to the closest neighbor to them, knocked on their door, and as I was knocking on their door, the guy yelled from across the street. He's like, "Hey, I already called them. I can hear the fire department coming." Because we live, there's like a fire department about 7 blocks from my house. So I heard them, so I went and sat down on the curb. They show up, deal with me, and I find out he told the cops that I had a buddy with me that ran off. No, I had to climb out the passenger side because the driver's side door was smashed together. It was like pinched into the frame because I hit right at where the doors meet, the front and rear door, sideways, and it bent the car in almost an L shape. It looked like when you crush a beer can, like if you squeeze a can in the middle and then bend it in half and then lay it on its side, it looked like that. And then
I'm sure, continue.
Anyways, when we went to the towing place to get all the stuff out of the trunk, the guy that greeted us there was like, he looked at my girlfriend and he's like, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And then he looked over at me and he was like, "Who was driving the car?" And I said, "I was." And he was like, "Oh my God, you're alive." I was like, "Barely, I guess." I got bruised and scraped up from it, but I was lucky because I was a little tipsy and loose. Had I not been, I could have really injured myself. I was wearing a seatbelt, thankfully, but man, that was a $20,000 10-year endeavor that damn near ruined my life. All my friends. One of the reasons why I was mentioning this is because I had to go to the Mothers Against Drunk Driving panel and do all that, and then have alcohol classes, and I had 18 months of probation, and I could not have any drugs in my system, alcohol, weed, anything. So I had to tell my friends, if you want to hang out, you can come to my house. You just can't bring drugs in the house. You can have it in your car. You can go smoke a joint and then come in the house. That's fine. You can come over drunk. I don't give a shit. You just can't bring it in the house. Oh, you just trying to turn your back on us. What, dude? I'm just trying to keep myself out of jail, out of prison. You know what I mean? Because I fucked up. I don't want to continue to fuck up. And that's when I kind of made my life change.
That's your prerogative. Like, why would I don't? I mean, I think your friends being upset at you, or your friends at the time.
We were young,
just, being assholes.
21, 22. Oh well, I guess I was a little older than that. I was 27, but still, 27 isn't that old. I guess I feel like they were selfish because they feel like they were not being able to hang out with the friend that they're used to hanging out with, because I'm definitely not as fun when I'm not high or a little tipsy or whatever. But I'm a little grouchy sometimes, you know, and they probably realize that, and they don't want to hang out with a grouch that's always talking shit and pessimistic and blah blah blah. So I get that, but at the same time, yeah, I had to make a decision to change my life, and they acted as if for some reason like it wasn't a big deal, like, oh, you can just sneak around and do it. It's like, no, dude, I'm not that type of person. I get in trouble and I learn my lesson. You guys can do what you want with, you know, however you deal with shit, but I'm not gonna do it like that, you know. And
I had a similar experience, but like not like I didn't have like friends like talking shit or kind of treating me badly because of it. But when I had broken to my high school when I was 15 and I got into that high-speed police chase, well, I mean, I was a passenger in the vehicle, but the driver got into a high-speed police chase with 31 cops in a helicopter, and I was just a passenger. And then I was on 5 years probation, although they cut me off a year early for good behavior and everything. But so I was on probation for 4 years, and I would only smoke pot the day of or the day after, maybe one more day after that. I
would always wait a couple days. Because I got popped like that once. They hit me with one, and then the next day they hit me with another, and I was like, are you kidding me? Good thing I didn't at the time, because I was thinking about it.
Well, they just randomly drug test me when I visited my probation officer. They never called me in to do one.
Well, we had a call-in thing where every day you had to call in before a specific time, and it gave you a color, and if your color was that day, then you have to go in, and sometimes it would be 2 days in a row, so you had to be super careful.
That's like that. Overly punitive, I think. I mean, like, and you said you had to spend $20,000. Well, wait a second. Let me jump back. Like, my friends and everything, they were big potheads, and they would offer weed to me like a week after I visited my probation officer, and I'm like, no, I already did my weed smoking, you know, like a week ago. It's too late right now, because if they drug test me at my next probation officer visit, then I'll get fucked. So, but they never held that against me. I was just like, nah, and we would just like play Super Smash Brothers or something on the 64.
Well, I think a lot of the part of my friend group was they all came from basically conservative Christian families. So, but they were potheads, you know what I'm saying? So it's like a different breed of person, which is, I think is why it's still hard to like walk away from a friend group, but I think in the long run it's easier to walk away from certain types of people because they're not specifically good for, you know, your I don't know how livelihood, I get not really livelihood, well-being,
life happens,
and your mental health and all that stuff. Because, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I spend a lot less on helping people out that are not trying to help themselves out anymore. But at the same time, it's, you know, it's really tough to not have a community of people that you can, you know, just rant to or, you know, have someone's opinion about. But at the same time, certain opinions are unnecessary, you know, like it's weird to get lectured by someone how you need Jesus in your life by someone who's drunk like smoking a joint, drunk, and probably like been sipping on some lean or, you know, been smoking some wasp spray.
I mean,
that's a really hard word to say.
Jesus thing too, it sounds like.
Well, yeah, and then that too, like telling you that you need Jesus, and it's like, you're going to church tomorrow, dude. What? And you're cheating on, you're like currently cheating on your girl, high out of your mind, and like doing all these things that are illegal or immoral, and you're telling me that I need Jesus. You know, it's like, whoa, that's weird.
Yeah, that's religion. Like I remember from the atheist experience when I used to watch them, and still a douche fucking came up with a good point, and he was like, you know, it's like us atheists don't have that. Like, we could go, like, if us atheists stole a bike, we would have to, like, you know, like later, you know, if we had any remorse about it, feel bad about it. But if you're religious and you steal a bike, all you got to do is pray, your guilt away, and then and then you're fine afterwards. And then it's like we don't have that luxury of people who don't do Jesus. But I don't think that Jesus is the answer. Not for all people. Maybe some people need to believe in some higher power to be able to live life, because that's just the way they were taught when they were younger. But I seem to live. What were we going to say?
Go finish your thought. I got a little story to tell, but
no, I think I seem to live a decent life. If I do someone wrong, I'm not going to be able to pray that shit away. I need to confront the person that I've done wrong and apologize or ask for forgiveness or both. I don't have the luxury of just praying to like Spider-Man or something and having my guilt be absolved that way.
Right.
I need to actually confront the person that I did wrong.
Right. So to go along with that and to get back onto the actual drug topic, which still goes along with this religious thing, I have a sister-in-law that went from being the number one crackhead everybody knows in the town that we live in. Like, she had a nickname and everything, and everybody knew who she was. She would sell her car for a rock, and then she would call the police and report it stolen, and then they'd find it at a crack dealer's house, and then she'd get a hit put out on her and type of stuff. You know what I mean? She was really deep into the shit. She was bad, and she had 3 kids at the time. Well, she has 3 kids, and that she couldn't take care of because of leaving the state and dropping them off with people and doing she was just out of her mind, high and on crack all the fucking time, doing the most reprehensible things, abandoning her children. Anyway, and then she finally got help. She went to rehab and went on a 12-step program. Well, what is a 12-step program? It basically replaces your drug of choice with Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So now she's not that she wasn't somewhat religious before, because she always believed in God and Jesus and whatnot, but now it's a major part of her life. But at the same time, even though, like, if we're at a family event, she really wants to pray a lot, and that's not a big deal. I just don't pay attention to it. And she doesn't really talk about any religious stuff at all unless she's praying. So it's not a huge part. It's just, I feel like giving up crack and going to God, for some people, like her especially, it helped a tremendous amount. She got her life together. She's had a good job for a long time. She's, paying her bills and helping her kids out. And, now she's a grandma, and, she's like living the life she should have been living before. But it took her replacing her drug of choice with a different type of drug it's more like inert, I guess. Kind of like the difference between... It's
more socially acceptable.
Right. The difference between like meth and heroin, or now you can smoke a doobie and nobody thinks nothing of it. It's a similar type of thing, and nobody thinks she's crazy because she's religious. It's just, her coping mechanism. And she's had a lot of shit happen in her life, and so everybody has, really, you know what I'm saying? But compared to me, she's had maybe more adult trauma, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of shit has happened in her adult age, as opposed to me. It was more like, abuse from
childhood.
a child abuse from my parents, whereas for her it was more outside of her family, people type abusing her, like men abusing her and shit like that, so she had it was like, when you have a coddled childhood and then you get out in the world and you get slapped in the face and beat up by people, it's like, holy shit, it's much harder to deal with than if you were beaten up as a child and you're just like, man, I'm used to this. Just fucking shrug this bitch off, So it's...
Yeah.
So
I'm used to getting beat up myself.
I can see how she got into that situation and how getting out of it was so tough, and that using a certain method worked for her, and it helped benefit her in a way. And to me, that it is kind of strange to be like, well, Christianity helped someone out, but in the long run, it actually did. But also
Well,
then I have to.
I disagree. Right? I disagree.
Well, I'm saying just the replacing that specific drug that was literally killing her and making her, do things that she physically couldn't
those AA
capable get away
programs,
with.
T-Rex.
What's that?
They replace they teach people, and this is one thing I get from the Penn and Teller bullshit. And I think they did an episode on AA when I watched them, and this is one thing I really agree with them on: is your sister did this because she was powerful, not powerless. But they taught her that she was powerless and that she needs Jesus, and they could have helped her in a different way without forcing their fucking religion. This one, like, religion preys on the weak and vulnerable. Whether it's kids or someone's having a hard time in their life, they should just help people, and it should be up to them to freely and openly and not be manipulated into believing in God, but actually do it on their own accord. And that's kind of where I have my disagreement. I think your sister was kind of tricked into, Christianity, but I mean, I think your sister is very powerful.
There's probably a big part of that where she was pressured into more so believing than she already did or whatever. But she grew up with it all around, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like her father's family are super highly religious. So if she grew up with them instead of her mom, she would have probably been that way regardless. But then she probably would have been on meth or crack too. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying that it's a great thing or the best way to deal with it. I was just saying that it's strange that somehow that worked out that way anecdotally. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that works for everybody or it should be a method that we use. I'm just saying that you can replace a drug with another type of drug. And to me, that's what religion is. It's a different type of drug. It's something to use to cope
100%.
With reality. That's all I use drugs for, is to cope with reality or my physical pain. I have bad back and anxiety, so I use it to help with that, and it helps.
I mean, people that get
release.
super religious, they feel like euphoric feelings that like your brain is releasing drugs, just because you're getting all hyped up on your religion and everything, and that's fine. But why can't people, like normal people that can't invoke that mentally, like, oh man, I'm so like into Jesus. Oh my God, the endorphins or whatever, the dopamine, it's all releasing. Other people need a little assistance with that, and there's nothing wrong, with it when it comes to our exes, when it's drug dealers in suits. When it's drug dealers not in suits, then it's like, oh, well, we gotta fucking punish this and make laws and make a bunch of money and make them a bunch of money off of making people's lives a little bit more miserable. I think, after the shit that my friend has gone through, like, she's constantly getting arrested. She's homeless, my mentally handicapped friend, and she's homeless and she's addicted to meth, and she gets the trespassing or drug charges all the time.
Right.
And that just doesn't help her at all. It just makes it more likely that she's going to end up in jail. She forgot a court date because she's very bad at making appointments or keeping appointments. Like, I can't even get her to keep her Social Security appointment. And to have a court date in there just sets her up for, oh, well, you missed the court date. Now you have a warrant out for your arrest. Next time you interact with the police, you're likely going to go to jail and go through even more trauma. And that's going to make you want to use drugs even more.
Right. It's just an endless cycle.
A vicious cycle.
Yeah, I saw something like that about a homeless guy. He wasn't even on drugs. He was just homeless. He was so, destitute, he couldn't afford to do drugs. He could barely afford to eat or, just panhandling enough to survive and whatnot. And they said he had been, in the last 3 years, been arrested 360 times, which means that's basically each year, 1 out of every 3 days he was in jail, inside of a jail for a day. 1 out of 3 days because he was homeless.
I bet someone made a lot of money off him.
Right, and it's insane because he wasn't even on drugs or anything. He was just destitute. You know what I'm saying? Which it could have been caused from doing drugs previously or whatever, but or just mental illness or just down on his luck or whatever the fuck, a divorce or Who knows? I can't remember, but just seeing that that's the type of, like you said, a punitive way of dealing with things. It's just the opposite of how shit should really be dealt with.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. We need a little bit more empathy, and we really are lacking that. It's kind of the whole, kind of like a main theme of me wanting to run for president is I want to kind of spread the love. It's why I'm willing to share my first lady if I ever have one, if I even get taken seriously. I kind of like what Marianne Williamson. She's cute. I'd definitely cuddle with that. But she kind of had that similar, I think, mindset. Spreading the love instead of all this hate and bombing and signature drone strikes and wars and overthrowing shit like we're fucking around with Nicaragua right now. I just knock it all off.
Yeah, it's the same shit over and over. Yeah, it's been going on my entire life. And
yeah, well, guess what, T-Rex? This is our world, and this is part of my message. This is our world, and this is our time. Not to sound like Goonies, but
right.
This is our time down here, all right? And we get to make our own fucking laws, and I'm tired of listening to shit like, look, our founding fathers got some shit right. But they did get some shit wrong, I think, especially with the Second Amendment that needs to be at least refined or re-amended to not allow assault weapons. Weapons of war do not belong in civilian hands. I'm fine with shotguns, pistols, and rifles.
Hunting rifles, yeah, bows and whatnot.
No extended ammo clips. Like, if you need an extended ammo clip to hunt deer or something, you fucking suck as a hunter. At least that's my opinion.
One shot, one kill, right?
Yeah. So yeah, like they got to, and we have made amendments. Like, we have changed the Constitution over time. We added prohibition, and then we got rid of it. So we have made these adjustments over the years. At least other generations have. Our generation has not.
Well, and think about
that's
this.
What I would like to at least push for. I don't know if I could actually accomplish it, but I would push for it. Definitely.
Have you noticed when the most strain on society is happening is when youth are being oppressed and the oldest people in society are in charge? Like in the early 80s, the late 70s, well, really the 70s and the early 80s, the whole 70s and 80s was basically old presidents, old people in charge, and we were having a lot of economy issues, and then we finally get them all out. We get some middle-aged men in there. I mean, granted, we could have had a woman, but whatever. We get some younger men in there, just in their late 40s or 50s or whatnot, and they don't do so bad, and then boom, back up to the old guys again, and shit is just like out of whack. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dude, we can't keep doing this shit the old way. These people had it one way in the 50s and shit. It was great for that time, you know what I'm saying? But guess what? It's 60, 70 years later. We got to do shit differently. And well,
they had their time. They made their world. And it's time for us to make our world the way that we want it. And there's, like, I guarantee you that most Americans agree with what we're talking about. And I think they would agree with the sentiment that, let's make our world. Let's make this our time. Let's stop listening to these old people. I don't want to, like, genocide no old person or anything, or old people.
Right.
I just, like, look, they had their time. They made their world. Now it's time to, pass the baton down to the next generation. And they're refusing to do that. They're very selfish. They're keeping everything to themselves and their little money-making schemes and more money, fatter and fatter bank accounts that they're never going to be able to spend in their lifetimes, that they hand down to their children's children. It's enough. Enough of this corruption and this evil shit. And I think that's kind of like, this messaging here that I'm doing right now does upset the crust. Like, your gravy train is going to end, bitches, when I get in there, or I'm going to do whatever I can to end it. And that's really upsetting for those that thrive on the gravy train right now.
And speaking of that gravy train, that's exactly a huge part of it. Like, the whole war on drugs, it started before I was born, but it kind of got huge in the 80s, and then obviously the 90s was probably the peak of the most, obvious corruptness and, going after just impoverished people. It's like, no shit, they have a little crack on them. They're trying to make money to survive, and you're harassing them. Why don't you go after these fucking businessmen who are fucking exchanging briefcases full of coke all day long, and you don't fucking touch them? Oh, it's because they're, you're on their payroll somehow, or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
They're wearing suits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, they're upstanding members of society, and then they get caught doing some fucking, basically with their pants down somehow. It's like, it's bullshit. And,
Yeah, like they're going around like taking people's like retirement money and fucking up the economy, snorting cocaine off of hookers' asses. But my friend that's homeless, my mentally handicapped friend that's homeless, she does meth, and she's the problem. She's the problem, right. Or your sister, is the problem. It's just like, I would love to, get the DOJ to target the fucking Wall Street, and see how many drugs those motherfuckers have.
The problem with that is that they've got too many connections. They make too much money. They're in each other's pockets. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at how Nancy Pelosi makes a lot of her money. She doesn't make all her money being,
well, they legalize their corruption. They're
right,
like, well,
right.
It's legal, so it's okay, guys, right?
Right. We have all these bills against insider trading, and then that's what they're doing, and then they get outed, and it's like, oh well, yeah, I'm sorry. Whoops, sorry, I got caught. It's like, wait.
Just recently, there was those 37 senators and congressmen that got they didn't properly report their.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm pointing
holdings
at.
And everything, and then nothing fucking happened to them.
Right.
And it's like, that was me. I wrote like a bad check for $500 or some shit.
You'd be in prison.
Getting, sent to jail for fraud.
Yeah.
But when they do fucking shit, see, it's on the books. See, it's okay. And It's like, yeah, you know what else was on the books in one country a long time ago? It was okay to kill Jewish people once. And so all because it's on the fucking books. I know that's an extreme example, but just to make the point.
Right.
All because it's on the books, that doesn't mean that it's right.
Right.
And that morally right or ethically right.
Yeah, to get back to the drug thing, I had a lot of arguments growing up with people about that. Well, they're illegal. Yeah, but they shouldn't be. Well, they are. Yeah, but why are they? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you know that cocaine is being used by doctors to do operations for certain things because it's used as a numbing agent? It's highly addictive, but they still use it. And, they use it on patients, and patients are humans, and humans can become addicted to that. And they may not even realize why they're having the urge for some of that. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, well, I mean, the suit fuckers lied about that it was addictive. They even lied to the doctors that were prescribing it that it was addictive. So the doctors think that they're doing their patients right. And who are the fucking criminals? The corporations and the people running those corporations, and then they lobby and get Congress to pass laws against the doctors,
right,
instead of themselves. That's such bullshit, and it's so unfair and unjust. That's definitely, not, liberty and justice for all. Well, that's fucking corruption right there.
And I wasn't saying that they shouldn't use that. I was just saying that they actually do use certain substances that are considered illegal, but they're like for medical use only type, but the thing is that if they can regulate that type of stuff, why can't they just mass produce it so that people who actually want to do it can get a hold of it and not have to worry about, how many people's heads got chopped off to get this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Are you describing freedom, T-Rex? Are you describing freedom right here?
A little bit. I feel like we're definitely not a free country. We have some freedoms, but there's so many. Okay, it's weird. Like I was saying earlier, it's weird how you can replace something that's you can replace something that's bad with something that's innocuous, and then things get better. So why not make it that way for basically everything? You know what I'm saying? Make it, you walk into a drugstore, you can literally get drugs. All you have to do is have your ID, you know what I'm saying? Because you're a citizen, you can get what you came for. There's, like in Mexico, you can just go into a pharmacy and be like, hey, I want some ketamine. They're like, all right, let me see your ID. You're 18? Okay, cool. There you go. $35 or whatever.
I was trying to get ketamine a few months back.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody should just go out and get some ketamine. What I'm saying is, if you've done your research and, you know, whatever, there's things that go along with it. You don't just jump in and start doing drugs. You have to at least be educated. And that's one of the things I was talking about earlier, is the education and awareness part is so, it's just screwy. People like
Well, yeah, the education is pretty much, don't do drugs, you're a bad person, you're going to, spend a lot of time in jail, and you might end up owing a lot of money, and you don't want that. And that's pretty much it.
Right.
Like anything else you need to like look up online, to actually get like legit answers and everything. I recently started doing poppers. We could talk about that later, but anyway.
I kind of lost my train. I was just listening to you. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry. My ADHD, I like interrupt people all the time. I really try. Like, I've probably stopped myself like a half dozen times, already from like interrupting you. It's something that I do a little bit more like in person, the person chats and whatnot. But I try to keep it under control. But interrupting and jumping in is kind of something that I've always done, and I don't think I'll ever be able to stop.
You got to get your point across sometimes, so I get it. I'm a little bit stoned too. I had some major points. I should be writing all this stuff down beforehand so I can remember it. But so sorry. So what I was getting at is
dead air. This is the dead air song.
I'm just gonna cut it out. So man, I had this profound thing I was saying, or gonna say. Anyway, we have all these sayings about how free and how much liberty we have, but then we have, oh yeah, okay, now I know where I was going. We have all these restrictions from being free. Well, certain restrictions allow some more freedoms than others. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have an amusement park, you have to have certain rules to keep people safe so that you can continue operations, which creates a circular environment of, if you keep people safe, people feel happy to be there, they're going to spend their money. You create an economy of trust and, financial stability, and you can continue that and then upgrade your safety factors and keep people even safer and safer, so a lot of businesses have that as a model. Just certain types of people have that as a motto, but then you have this country that says we're free, but we can't have access to certain things. Like, why is weed not federally legal? It's like legal in most states, and it's
I'm going to solve that week one. I would say day one, but I have ADHD, so I might get a little distracted, and there might be something more important to do on day one.
Even if you just make it a main priority and it gets done, that's really all that matters. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I guarantee you, week one, I'm going to be smoking a blunt. I'm going to do a press conference and smoke a blunt. Make it look like I'm going to say something, but I'm not, and I just finish the blunt, and the only thing I'll say is, thank you, America, or take care, or something like that.
Right, that would probably be the most amazing thing and most watched presidential thing ever. Like, I fantasize about these things all the time. It would be aired on every network thousands of times. It would go insanely viral, and it would easily show people, hey, it's not a big deal. It's just
it's not. It really isn't. But people are taught differently, and that's a sad kind of reality.
Speaking of taught differently, I was about to say, it's weird when people are so anti it. Like, okay, so my mother-in-law, she was an alcohol. She was a hardcore alcoholic, and then she, eventually realized this shit's tearing me up. I can't continue doing it. But she was completely anti-weed. And when she met me, I'm a straight up pothead. She knew it, and I can't say she hated me, but she disliked that I was a pothead. And, she grew to like me. We're actually really good friends now. And actually, she probably eats edibles damn near every day. She has a little vape she smokes on. And she eventually came around to, once it became legalized, oh, it's not bad. It's not a big deal. Well, no shit. It never was. You just had that stigma around it your entire life. She grew up in she was born in, I think, 60. So she was raised basically in the 70s and 80s after the hippie movement was basically dying down and the 80s Coke era was happening. So she was a teenager and young adult during those years. And so, in the 80s, it was hardcore. Don't do drugs. Say no to drugs. Because of the, Reagan slogans and whatnot. And
reefer madness. You're going to go out and rape people and rob things and all sorts of bad things if you're on this stuff.
Yeah, reefer madness happens like every 30 years, and it's like every middle of every other generation, and that's kind of what went on then. And hopefully it never comes back because it's such a ridiculous thing. And now that I'm pretty sure that a majority of states are recreational and a lot of them are medical, and there's only a few that are neither. And so, everybody's going to eventually catch up and be like, why were we being so fucking stupid this whole time? You know what I'm saying? What the fuck was that? Why were we smoking in
the younger generations will be like that, but I don't know about the older ones are like, punish them. I have this neighbor here that he's been kicking people out of the laundry room. Some tenant here gave some of his homeless friends the code to stay out of the laundry room code to get in there to stay out of the cold. And he's like, rightfully, I guess he's kicking people out of the laundry room. But then he's like, well, you should take care of yourselves, get a job. And he's older. He's like in his 60s and shit. And it's like, yeah, well, I mean, the economy isn't what it was when you were growing up, dude.
Yeah,
right? The people's buying power isn't what it used to be. People can't own their own houses. It's all about renting now, which is like so fucked up. There's like 1,000,001 or 1,000,001 issues in America, and these are just some of them. And yeah, so I think the older generation is a little bit more cold and apathetic.
Which is
and
weird.
The younger people that are actually growing up in this world that the older people have created are a little bit more empathetic. And
Yeah.
we could use that against the corrupt.
And that's so crazy to
too.
me. It's like when you talk to your grandparents, it's like they have a different outlook on certain things, but when it comes to like peace and love and everybody should be getting along, they're a little more for that. But then like my parents' generation, the boomers, it's just you're not productive, you need to die. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, what the
you deserve
fuck happened to
every bad
y'all?
thing that happened to you.
You guys got coddled. The greatest generation fucking raised your asses. What the fuck happened to you? You know what I'm saying?
Because they grew up in that bubble, man. They're like, well, everything was fine, and I quote unquote worked hard and I made it. So why can't these people do it? And they can't really see beyond that. They can't see, the greater, bigger, issues that make. You kind of like we have a spike in homelessness. Now I've been hearing the figure of 500,000 homeless in America for like the past 5 years.
Oh, it's
and
way more than that.
Bullshit.
It's way more.
Oh yeah,
than
it's
that.
probably like 2 million. But it's hard to kind of also like survey the amount of homeless and everything. But anyway, it's
a lot of them are roaming
when
nomads, so that is a little tough to keep track of.
Some people choose to be homeless, and that's freedom as well. But I wanted to say, you mentioned something about regulations, protecting the people over at the theme parks and whatnot. When I hear the word regulation, I think protection for the people.
Right. That's exactly
now, there
what
are
I think.
stupid ass regulations, but yeah, I mean, I just wanted to throw that in there because I just remembered I wanted to make that point, and then we're getting a little further from what you mentioned.
It's fine. Some of those regulations are put in place because certain people are oblivious, aloof, unaware, not paying attention, and so they can't. That's for their own liability. So when they say, "Well, it's written on the bucket, don't fill it up halfway and put your kid in it upside down," you knew they were going to drown. There's a picture of it on the bucket. You know what I mean? So there's certain things that, you know, like OSHA regulations and whatnot that keep us safe as long as we follow those rules and regulations. But there's certain things that it's like we don't have enough information to know better or not whether that regulation is going to be helpful or not. And when it comes to drugs, they say, well, we don't have enough information. Well, no shit, because you guys aren't doing the testing that should have been done. Maybe they did start some testing way back in the day, but they came to their own conclusions based on the conclusions they had before they did the testing, which is, you know, unscientific and stupid, and they had a bias against it.
Start off with a conclusion and then work from there.
Right. Of course it's going to kill all the rats that you trap in a glass cage that's airtight and you fill it with smoke because there's no oxygen. You know what I'm saying? Of course it's going to kill the rats. So then you're going to say, oh, weed will kill you. No shit. Weed would kill you if that's all you were breathing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that type of shit, you know, people don't realize that's the type of shit that was going on, and then they were raised in a time where their information isn't as easily available, and if you want it, you got to go look it up in the encyclopedia, which may be 20 years outdated. You know what I mean? So a lot of their generation don't realize even really what reality really is until they get so biased against what is really going on, I guess.
Well, that and also like the way that society has kind of transformed in America from when I was a kid to where it is now, and people working multiple jobs and shit. People don't have the time to pay attention to all these little details, and they get just caught up in treading water and trying to keep their head above water. And it's like that by design, I think, by the corrupt. You know, they're definitely like, oh, well, you know, we'll just you know, waste their time and not give them any time with their, you know, family and friends and loved ones and shit. And they're going to have to work multiple jobs, and it's not just one person working a job anymore. It's you know, the you know, husband and wife working,
or
you
both
know,
working multiple jobs.
The boomer generation had one job, one person, one job. And you were able to have like a house or an apartment, 1 or 2 cars, take your kids to, you know, college, and you get them, you know, health insurance and shit. It ain't like that nowadays.
Yeah, my stepdad had not a GED. He had a community college education in horticulture. So he ran a landscaping business. So he like transplanted trees and stuff, and then he painted houses on the side. And he just did that, and he could afford we lived in a nice, decent house. When my mom was with him, we lived in a really nice house. It was filled with kids had all brand new toys, brand new clothes, all that kind of stuff. We had cable TV and all the paid channels, the movie channels and whatnot. I mean, we had everything, video games out the wazoo. And then but what I'm saying is, someone nowadays with that little of, you know, employment, I guess, he was working like maybe 45 hours a week, and it was just him. My mom didn't have to work, and he, you know, we lived with a surplus. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that today unless you both have either two decent jobs or super well-paying job with some kind of education behind it or something, you know, like a doctor or a lawyer or whatnot. But yeah, if you're just a manager, you're struggling. You know what I'm saying? The cost of living used to be, oh, he's making 35 grand. Oh, he must be balling. You know what I'm saying? Now 35 grand, that's barely enough to get by with a couple with a child. You know what I'm saying? You literally can't.
Right.
Do it.
Oh man, my whole life I've made around $10,000 a year. Like maybe some was like some years was like 13,000. Other years was like maybe 12,000 or something like that. But and I was always like the person to like I did doubles and triples even, and I just worked my ass off, and I can never seem to make it.
But
especially one of my last jobs out in Illinois, where I was a taxi driver when I was homeless, and I worked every waking moment, and I couldn't put a roof over my head. I slept in the taxi, I showered at a friend's house, and like I must have done 100-hour work weeks, literally. Like I worked every waking moment. There was days where I did like 30-hour days, and just hyped up on coffee and shit. And I just never could make it. And there's plenty of people out there that are like, well, you're lazy, and it's like, go fuck yourself.
yeah, that I never understood that. It's like how is someone lazy when they have 3 jobs? You know what I'm saying? Or they work 100 hours a week or whatever. I don't get that. It's like, okay, so you can work for our company, but we're gonna drug test you, so you better not do drugs. But we're gonna overwork you and underpay you, so you're gonna be stressed as fuck and hurting
the pie.
and yeah, it's like, what the fuck do you expect out of people? You're gonna take everything. You take all the profits. You take all the the ability for someone's livelihood, you take it all away, and then you expect them not to do drugs? What the fuck? What the fuck do they have left? You know what I'm saying? Other than to reminisce over their shitty reality, What's that?
When I was homeless doing the taxi driving gig, I would spend, like every few days, I'd spend $20 on a, gram of weed or something out in Illinois. This was before it was legal.
Oh yeah,
legalized out there. Yeah, and well, if it was Kush or something, it was like $25 a gram. Right. But anyway, I just I couldn't afford a roof over my head. But I was like, man, this is so shitty. I need some weed. Like I'm living in a taxi and shit, and I'm working my ass off, and I'm going nowhere, and just out of nowhere, just like people treat me like shit, and I'm often easily misunderstood. But I did a recent upload with Human Interactions, I think from November 15th.
Yeah,
and towards the end, that. I ordered a pizza at Domino's, and I do weird shit like this. Like I show appreciation even to the Dollar Tree employees, and I'm like, I wish they shared more of the profits, because it doesn't matter if you specifically are working this job. They need someone working this job for their profit.
Yeah.
And without
otherwise they'd have to get off their ass and do it.
Yeah, without someone working the oven or the delivery driving and all these other things, it doesn't matter which monkey is there. You need a monkey there to make your fucking profit. And right. they're not sharing enough. And all these employees are living in destitute all across the board, from grocery stores to fast food places. And it's been a downward spiral, not to sound like Nine Inch Nails, but it's been this downward spiral for decades that I've noticed. And I really feel for America, and I would really love to help. Like I was talking with someone at this bus stop a few months back, and he was like saying how the military industrial complex would probably like assassinate Biden or Obama or Trump if they didn't keep up the wars. So he's like, well, I understand why he doesn't do it. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, I would totally, I don't want to die, but I would give my life. And especially, we ask soldiers to go risk their lives. What right would I have if I wouldn't give my own life to fucking end the war? Yeah. So I don't care if it pisses off the military industrial complex. It might be able to hire an assassin for like $50,000 and, do a hit on me on some random Tuesday or something. But my mind is set, and I want to end the wars, and this will not deter me. If I get taken out, I hope someone else picks up the baton. and because yeah, Biden ended one war, quote unquote, maybe.
Dude.
I don't know, but we still got 6 others going on, you know. So it's like 7 fires are going on, and we put one of them out, and it's like, good job.
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
all the others are out of hand too. Yeah, it's crazy,
yeah.
Especially like when speaking of the drug war itself, it may be they may have a pullback on it right now, but it's still literally going on. You can't be sitting on a park bench smoking a joint. You're going to get harassed. You know what I'm saying? You can smoke in your house or in your yard or do whatever. But
well, not if you're a peasant like me. I'm not allowed to do it on my property or have it on my property. And then I'm not allowed to do it outside because I live in Colorado and not New York, where they got that one thing right.
Well, I'm saying I'm in Illinois, so for us anyway, for it to be like that in Illinois, it's recreationally legal. But yeah, you can't just go sit out in public and smoke a joint. So I can be on my porch and smoke a joint, but I can't be in the street and smoke a joint. You know, which I don't think it's not a huge deal, but it's still lacking, really. You know what I'm saying? I should be able to just take a walk and smoke a joint and not worry about if a cop's going to pull up on me and arrest me for smoking a joint because a kid might see me smoking a joint because they're not trying to educate people, you know, about it. It's like what
I had that worry in Chicago, but Chicago's so big. Like when I would walk around Chicago and shit, I would just smoke a joint and just walk and just like nobody bothered me. But I always had that thought, like someone could fuck with me if they wanted to. But I never got fucked with when I was at least walking around Chicago and shit.
Yeah, the town I live in isn't hustling and bustling enough for them to, you know, they're out looking for something to do because, you know, people are shut-ins here and, you know, there's not a whole lot to do. So yeah, well, there's a local sex club out where I'm at, and you know, freedom. All right, I know it's not for everyone, but I'm a loner. I don't have many people in my life, and I am trying to seek some healing and everything. And you know, I'm into kinks and all that stuff, and those are all fine. Especially, you know, like I said, I messaged you on Twitter, and I was like, you know, Trump gloating about going in, you know, little kids' dressing rooms. You know, I have nothing to worry about. And anybody that makes a big deal about anything I have to say here about a sex club is going to hate me anyway. So I need to not let it get to me. And I need to just mentally get prepared, especially for exposure or something. But, you know, to make it, you know, well, anyway, so I've been trying to, you know, I checked out this sex club. I went to this BDSM 101 class back in October 2nd. And it wasn't the best of days for me. This was before I got my CPAP machine. So my days are groggy. I have a hard time gathering my thoughts and whatnot. And I had shown up and, I made a few comments, but I don't think it was anything weird. With my ADHD, I kind of bounce around and I either, you know, shake my body or shake my legs or something. I was playing with a pen that I had found on the table there, and I was kind of like twirling it, and I dropped it a few times. Anyway, there was this one chick that's talking about, I thought it was one thing, but I think they're referring to this. This one chick was like talking about like, you know, some sexual assault, you know, that she went through, and Tessa. Tessa is this organization out here that helps, you know, supposedly helps victims of assault. I don't know if it's specifically sexual assault. All I know is I went there in 2015 after I got acquitted and got out of jail because I got, you know, attacked and abused by someone abusing his woman, and I was just all fucked up, and they didn't fucking help me at all. But she got done making her comments, you know, and I was like, you know, I just kind of like was like, well, what if you had a penis? You know, because she was like praising Tessa and everything, and I was like, I did not share the same thoughts, and I think that's what they're referring to. Although later on, you know, in the day, it was like an hour long thing, hour and a half maybe. Later on, there was a Dom male that was talking about how
some sub of his wanted certain things done to her, but then he would do the things, and she would freak out. And what I gather, she didn't invoke a safe word or anything, but she would freak out after the fact. And I had a similar experience with my mentally handicapped friend, as we occasionally have sex, only every 8 or 9 months. We have sex, and she denied me, many months ago. And I was like, and I had my mindset the next time she was kind of initiating sex and everything, I was going to deny her.
Right. Tit for tat
and that's
type of
exactly. That's exactly what happened. She started digging her butt into my crotch and everything, and then she, moving around, and then she feels me up, and she's literally grabbing me and everything, and then I kind of turn over, and I'm like, nah, I'm not in this. and then later on that day, or the next day after she woke up, and we went to sleep and everything, and then she woke up, she made a comment how what happened the previous night. I forget exactly what it was. I probably should have wrote it down. But she made a comment like how what happened last night, which wasn't really anything, wasn't consensual, which scared the shit out of me. Because I'm like, why would you fucking say that? So I was kind of relating to the Dom. And in short,
yeah, that sounds
what happened.
That sounds like the opposite of
and,
what happened, though.
Yeah, I know. Well, she has mental health issues, and she does. I swear, she is like a contrarian. Whatever you say, she will say the opposite, just reflexively. There's probably some documented psychological thing, but it's yeah, we're walking to the store, and she's like, no, we're sauntering. Yeah, there's something like that. It's always something. She always has to say, no, it's this. And so I think that's what to do with it. But I mean, she just kind of freaked me out, and I was just thinking, that's stupid. That's stupid for you to do. You to scare the shit out of someone like that. And it seemed like that Dom was saying something similar to that. And then, but when the Dom had made his comment, some other chick, which is what I thought the dispute was, but now over rethinking the situation, there was some chick with blue hair that was talking about that she didn't know what she wanted and was unsure. And I wasn't referring to that as stupid. And I'm unsure of what I want. I need to experiment and explore. So I share, similar thoughts and whatnot. But before I could get any of these thoughts out, I'm groggy. I'm much sharper today than I am back in October 2nd. That CPAP machine has made the biggest. I've done a few things this year, got new glasses, got a root canal, got the CPAP machine, got an anti-anxiety, and the CPAP machine is the biggest fucking difference in my life. And it's scary to think that I've probably gone a decade and a half with the apnea issue and didn't do anything about it. And it was because Elizabeth Doza, and I must thank her so much. It was because of her that I hadn't known about this, because if she hadn't mentioned it to me and she hadn't slept next to me in my van and brought it up to me, I would have never thought about looking into this. So that woman has had a huge impact on my life as well, as in our last chat, Jessica, that showed me a way to express myself and all this cool independent underground music.
Also, it's great that they shared that with you, but it's also great that you actually took initiative to do something about it too. And, first you realized you're having issues, and then you took initiative to actually do it,
Well, a lot of people played it off as you smoke weed, Chris, so that's it. And it's no, there's something else, and I had no idea. And it was 2.5-3 years after the fact, after she brought it up to me, that I finally got around to looking into it. But I had finally done it. And, like I said, I'm fixing myself. I'm self-correcting and self-fixing. And at this club, I couldn't get any of those thoughts that I had previously talked about out. The dude, one of Like, I got 5 words out. One of them was stupid. And as soon as I said stupid, the dude was like, how dare you use that language around here? You know, and then I tried to kind of like gather my thoughts and everything. And he's like, are you finished? And then I learned that he Me Too'd me because he says that I make, like, I talked to the owner of Voodoo, Paul, and had a brief discussion with him. And he's like, oh, you make fun of sexual assault victims and you were disruptive. And well, I don't know. I have ADHD, so I guess you could just like throw disruptive around anywhere. I made a few comments. I mean, aside from what I said, the dude couldn't get the TV working, so I was like, you know, have you tried whacking it? You know, and another yeah, right. You know, I try to, you know, make a joke.
Right.
And
some people are just too dry to take a joke.
Well, I mean, he also, like, I made a comment because he was saying, you know, you shouldn't trust people that say they've been doing stuff for so long. So I'm like, yeah, I've been whipping people for 270 years, something really obviously not true. And it was sort of in my mind, it was sort of an underhanded comment because he was like, oh, I've been into this lifestyle since 2013. And it's like, well, yeah, I don't believe your fucking ass. You know, I don't trust your ass. I don't believe your ass. So, and then you're telling I mean, you know, it was just weird, you know.
It sounds kind of antithetical.
And anyway, I don't think I was being that disruptive. And definitely not making fun of sexually assault victims. Now, this is not to say that I haven't thrown some shit in people's face. Because a few years ago, there was a roommate of mine, some cute 20-year-old, that was getting probably roofied by her 38-year-old friend, badass friend that's in fucking prison right now. I could look them up, but anyway, so because she had some weird stories, but the thing is that she couldn't remember, and that she oddly got quickly tired and kind of passed out, and those was very suspect to me, you know. And I had made a comment many years ago to just get her. The point of the comment was not to get her to like me, but to get her to think. And I was like, you know, I said something along the lines of like where could I get some young dumb chick to roofie or something like that, you know, to just like, you know. And I hope those words, you know, what I said to her stuck with her. She immediately blocked me on Facebook, but I noticed a few months back when I deleted my Facebook that she had unblocked, and that the dude is in prison right now. The you know, I mean, should I say the dude's name or should I just like keep that?
No,
I mean, he's in prison.
There's no reason for that, but just we can trust that that's the type of people that are out there, because actually everybody you know knows somebody who has some story like that. You know what I'm saying? My girlfriend.
Well, I could send you. I sent Miss Parker. Like, I told Miss Parker this thing when I was trying to have my chat with her, and I sent her a screenshot of the dude in jail, which I think is fair. I could send it to you, and you could like add it right here, around here.
Sure.
But anyway, I don't know why exactly he's in jail. I can't look that shit up, but maybe rape. But anyway, so I threw that back in her face. And then many years ago, when I was going to my God's club, a little side story here, which kind of ties into my little sex club story here. I knew this chick, Denise, and she looked like Princess Leia, like in Return of the Jedi, and she danced like a pixie ballerina. She was so awesome. And I remember going to her house, and you know, I would hang my, you know, jacket up or coat up, and I would help her with the dishes, and I'd help her cook and clean. She also sold me weed. There was one time I went over to her place, and she had this really semi bag for me, and I was like, no, I'm not buying that. Like, and I said this in front of some other people, and apparently that was enough to damn me forever. And we really haven't spoken since. But I remember her telling me the story of being sexually assaulted by 2 people. Maybe one person 2 different times, or 2 people at the same time. I forget. But that's besides the point. The point is, she said she had forgiven her rapist, but my little indiscretion of not wanting to buy a bag and saying it in front of some other people that she had over, I didn't know I was supposed to pull her aside. I was being very respectful in other, aspects, but I did this one thing and now I'm damned forever. Similarly to Voodoo Leatherworks, where whatever, thing I did wrong fucking banned me. And now, I was actually just going to protest in front of the place, and I have my little peaceful sign saying that there's a bully, manipulator, predator in there. And eventually I'm going to clip this chat about Voodoo. I'm going to get a URL to direct people to this particular, story of Voodoo. This is my experience. And I don't even want in the club anymore. You are fucking damned forever. How dare you deny me of healing? You claim that I fucking make fun of sexual assault victims. Now, like I said, I've done some funky shit in the past that I just talked about. But at least, I haven't done anything recently. What the fuck are you talking about? And I wish I would have brought my audio recorder, because it's the only defense. That audio recorder I got could go all fucking day long. It's the only defense us loners have against other people's bullshit.
Right.
And I am trying to learn this dude's name, although they might see that as some violation, like outing people in the community. But I'm just doing what I normally do. I have a long list of names from the shitty DA in the Illinois case that I had, Kelly Peterson. I think the judge's name was Shelley. I have the transcript, so I could look it up. I forget off the top of my head, though. From my mom. The other DA out here that prosecuted me and ignored my injuries, ignored an audio recording of some dude threatening me, and I couldn't hit him one time. And that DA, which this should be okay to say because these are public servants, was Pamela Radigan and Adam Bailey that pursued this case against me, ignored my deep vein thrombosis that I got as a result of my injuries, and I couldn't hit one dude one time under his armpit that was attacking me, and I set the dude off by explaining to his woman that the dude gave me her PIN number. Oh my god. And that's that, the Kyle Rittenhouse shit. That really upsets me. I fucking did 10 months in jail. I got no monetary compensation, and I tried. I can never raise the cent on GoFundMe for anything. And I hit and the cops and all the fucking deputies in the jail, they're like, well, you provoked it. I provoked it what? I told the fucking dude's woman that the dude gave me her PIN number, and that means that I spent 10 months in jail. And then the Kyle Rittenhouse does less time, gets more support. He might have been justified with that first one, but I don't think he was justified with those last two.
I don't think he should have been there as a minor with a rifle, but that's my opinion on that.
There was a lot of misinformation, and I feel a little bit betrayed by the progressive media that made it seem like it was something that it wasn't. But given the details and all the facts and everything, that crazy dude, fucking chasing him in the beginning was probably justified. The other shootings were not.
Being attacked and defending yourself is one thing. Putting yourself in a position where you're going to be attacked and then you get attacked and then you defend yourself is a whole nother thing. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
He was really out of place where he was at. Being a minor, he should have been at least accompanied by his parents or some kind of guardian or somebody, and maybe not had a rifle with them, or maybe he should have waited till he's 18 to join into doing adult activities. You know what I'm saying? Or I don't know. I feel like maybe he put himself in a position where he was in over his head to begin with, and then it got out of hand.
Yeah, well, maybe the last one, too, the injury where he shot the guy that had the pistol, I think, that might have been justified, too. But the skateboard dude did not deserve that. Essentially what he said is, I'm a scared little bitch, and I was in fear for my life by being hit by a skateboard, so I had to kill him. is the argument that was made and somehow was successful.
I mean, I get,
And if so, he's a little bitch then.
I get the argument of if you're in a situation and someone's attacking you with a skateboard and you happen to have a gun and you shoot them, that's self-defense. But like I was saying, he was far from his hometown, and he, you know what I'm saying? He was a minor with a fucking...
Which clouded it in like, oh, I'm writing, graffiti and everything off the things, so, I did some nice deeds, just like fucking cops.
Right, and that's
they're like,
just
I did a few nice
to me.
things, so I get to do a few bad things.
Yeah,
right? And it's like...
You don't go waving a gun around and pretending you're an authority figure, and then when people say, hey, you're not an authority figure, get to fucking shoot at them because you... Granted, they were physically attacking him at one point, but one guy basically was just trying to get him to put the fucking gun down and get the fuck out of there,
Like, people
point your gun down and go away.
What the fuck was going on?
Yeah, so, and then
people were confused. They thought there was an active shooter, and they wanted to disarm him. And I watched that Matt Orfalia guy like a week or two ago, talking about this. And it was like, well, what rights do the people have in that crowd that are confused?
Yeah, they're trying to protect themselves too.
Shooter.
Right.
Yeah, what about them? I guess fuck all those people. It was, fucking Kyle, just go around fucking, shooting anybody. And if he feels like a scared little bitch, he could fucking execute them. Like I understand self-defense as having a reasonable counter force to the force that, is being applied to you. So, for instance, if you punch me in the face, I cannot whip out a chainsaw and chop your arm off.
Right. You punch me back a couple times, and then I'm like, okay, I give. Right. I get that. Yeah, that's a normal human would think that. Yeah.
Does not warrant execution, to me at least. That's just my opinion. Like, it sucks. I've been beat up a lot. I could take a beating. Maybe that's just because how I live my life, or... Oh, man. Yeah, I always say to a woman that, like, I escorted a woman back to her apartment that lives here. She was kind of like, there was like some weird dude hanging out near her apartment door. And I'm like, look, I can't beat anybody up, but I'll definitely get beat up for you, okay? And usually
I'll push them, you run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that while they're focused on me, you go make your escape. Just like, a few weeks ago, there was some dude that went crazy on some other dude on the bus, and he started like yelling at this old guy, and he started getting in his face and everything, and I couldn't stand it anymore, so I literally put myself in between them, and then the dude whips out a knife, and we're at the bus terminal in Colorado Springs here, at the Metro bus terminal. And, I'm like, to get the driver's attention, I'm like, dude's got a knife, and I really wish I was recording then. I didn't have my body camera at that time, or I was just getting used to it and I wasn't using it all the time. But anyway, I really wish I would have. But then the dude was just kind of focused on me and everything. And I was like, good, you fucking focus on me. Leave this fucking person alone. Like, what the fuck is your problem? And then he got escorted off the bus. And then I actually got off at some bus stop I normally don't get off at. I had to make an errand somewhere. And then I noticed, like this was days later, it was the same person. And it was like this couple. It was this white chick and black guy. And I noticed they got off at the same stop I did. And it felt really uneasy. So it's like, was there still a lot? The dude whips a knife out on me and brandishes it and makes like threats that he's going to stab me. And the dude is still allowed. And that's how it goes in my life. Like, people could do whatever the fuck they want to me and always get away with it. And, it's sad but true.
That's probably what drives a lot of people to doing drugs, because of the way that life really is. It's like it's watching all these elites do all these things and get away with it, and then we can't even really, you can't even do any of that stuff, or you're gonna immediately go to jail. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what the fuck is really
laws for thee, but not for me.
Right. I was gonna say that earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt. It's kind of weird because there's so many laws that affect how people in a lesser situation can deal with their life. and yet people that have the ability and the means to get by without the struggle are getting away with so much more. You know what I'm saying? Not technically getting away with murder, but the phrase getting away with murder. So
yeah, it's unfair, and it really fucking rubs me the wrong way. And maybe like the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing, maybe I'm not the best person to really talk about that, because I really am emotional about that, because like I did more time than I think he did. And my thing wasn't even like I gave a guy the bruise the size of a quarter, and he was attacking me, and I had like audio recording of like the dude like, I'm gonna fuck you up, and I'm not like screaming any threats at all. I'm just like, you got anger issues, like, and I say that stuff in a confrontation. Sometimes fuck my head up and everything, just like when that dude pulled the gun on me, like 6 weeks ago or whatever. I was like, I was going to say that the dude had, it was like, you got a big dick, you like scaring the animals and shit, but I got hung up on like, you got a big dick, huh, bitch,
well, either way.
Anyway,
I mean, I feel like you probably got your point across to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, the fucking pigs saw that fucking recording that I have on my YouTube, and they're like, you shouldn't call him a fag or a bitch or anything. Like I was the dude pulled the gun on me. Are you like, so like, if you pull a gun on me, I'm very likely to talk shit, and I'm the problem. Like, is how I felt from the fucking Colorado Springs pig.
Yeah, I feel like people who are quick to pull a gun or carry a gun around with them are probably the scariest people, because they're probably more It's like that saying, like a bug, it's more scared of you than you are of it. But that motherfucker's poisonous, can kill me with one little bite. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna fucking get rid of it or get it out of my life. You know what I'm saying? So those type of people, I know a couple guys that literally carry a gun around 100% of the time, and they're like the jumpiest,
fucking insecure,
weakest,
man.
Insecure, yeah. Either are violent toward women or have weird, like, say stuff about women that's like as if they don't know, or like they've never interacted with a woman before type of shit, like incel type behavior and like shit like that. It's just like those type of guys, which Kyle Rittenhouse may well be one, just...
there was multiple guilty parties there. Like, if nobody had a gun there, that dude that got injured...
Right, if they're all carrying protest signs, we would have had a protest sign fight.
Maybe a beating up of, and then not a murder or execution, or, like if there was no guns involved there, everybody would have lived. Although there might be some, stitches and bruises or whatever, but everybody would have lived.
Right, and that's a sad thing.
Guilt on all sides.
Back in the day, if
needs to be fair.
Back in the day, if if it got to a point where you had to physically resort to violence, someone wasn't going to pull out a gun unless you were literally like threatening their life. And you get angry at someone, you throw fisticuffs, you fucking shake it off, and fucking flip each other off and walk away. You know what I'm saying? Fuck you, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and everybody lived.
Right, and now we have to end people. It's just like the social media, like canceling people. You know what I'm saying? Why can't we just teach the people a lesson? Like, hey, Matt Damon, maybe you shouldn't use slurs like that around your children. You know what I'm saying? And when your child tells you that you fucked up, maybe you should just accept it. Because just because you grew up and that was okay to say doesn't mean it still is. But at the same time, dude was being honest and saying, hey, I fucked up and my kid called me on it. And so he learned a lesson. That was him saying, hey, I learned not to do this anymore. But then hundreds of thousands of people go after him. It's like, they should have went after him and said, hey, good job, dude. Thanks for actually fucking caring now. And so let's move on with this, and maybe help other people who are doing the same shit become aware that they're, have your kid talk to them, or, put your kid in the spotlight and have them, be the.
I'm a little unaware of that situation, but
anyways,
it sounds dude, people are allowed to make mistakes.
Right. He tweeted out that
recover from that.
He said a slur, and his kid was like, "Hey, that's not acceptable, Dad." And then he came on Twitter and was like, "Hey, I fucked up, and my kid called me on it." And then people jumped down his throat, and I get why they're like, "You shouldn't have been saying that shit anyway." True, but it took him that experience because he's around fucking people who don't give a fuck. He's around Hollywood elites who are probably racist and fucking whatever, homophobic and whatnot. And so
he lost his way a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And someone called him on it. He said, "Hey, I fucked up, just so when this does get out, because it probably will." And it did. But it's better to confront it up front and say, "Hey, I fucked up and I'm sorry," than to say, now there's evidence that I did it. "Oh, I'm sorry, I fucked up." You know what I'm saying? That's a huge difference. People are going to lose all trust and whatnot. But for the amount of people that jump down his throat for it, I get that they could say, "I can't believe you were doing that," but they could have ended it. But thanks for acknowledging that you fucked up and never do it again. You know what I'm saying? And that would have been fine. But it wasn't like that. It was like, oh, the gall of this motherfucker to call himself out and just pretend like it was no big deal. No, that's what he's saying. It was a big deal. It affected his child's life, and
Twitter's
he realized
trash.
it. Well, I'm just saying, if he would have gone on,
people are so hateful.
if he would have did an interview and he would have said it on national television to 6 million people, it would have probably had a similar reaction, because that's how people are. It's like, we got to end him for this.
Well, yeah, the negative reviews are the ones that get the reviews. Not the if you're happy and everything, you're less likely to review or something, like when you order something online.
Yeah, and seeing if it would have been like a celebrity coming out like, "Oh, I had alcoholism and I went to rehab," they would all be cheering him. You know what I'm saying? And he's just saying the same shit. I fucked up and I had to do something about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's that same. It's the
nice.
opposite mentality of reaction when. And I'm not saying it's okay to be homophobic or racist or whatever. I'm just saying that when someone admits that they've had that issue and they're trying to work on it, or admit that they, are doing something about it, you're not helping them by being hateful and spiteful and shitty about it. And I'm not saying he should actually be praised. It should be good going, but keep going. That's really it. Not like, "Oh, you're so great for doing that," because he shouldn't have been doing it, or whoever's, not specifically anybody now. But nobody.
Is probably too strong of a
right.
word.
It should be, "Okay, thank you for acknowledging what you were doing that was wrong, but thank you for fixing it also. Thanks for at least acknowledging it and taking a step toward fixing it," or whatever it might be.
And being a better you than you were yesterday.
Because we could all do that. And a lot of those people, I feel like they probably have some issues that they could fucking work on, but they're not gonna go out in public and speak to 1 million people and say, "Hey, I fucked up royally, and just so you know, I'm taking personal effort to fix it." And a lot of that mentality goes with the whole drug culture thing, is like, people can't admit that people have a problem admitting that they have a problem. "Well, I only drink here and there." Okay, so I had this buddy, he would be like, "I'm not a drinker." "Why do you have a beer belly?" "Well, I hardly ever drink." "Okay, so how often do you drink?" "Well, like once a week." "Well, how much do you drink?" "Like a case." "Oh, so you drink 18 to 24 beers in a sitting. That's as much as most people drink in a week if they drink every day." You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's people's mentality. "Well, I don't really do that," but then they do it in excess, and it's more so than what a normal person would drink on, like, "Oh, I'm a drinker. I go out on Friday and Saturday night and drink 5 or 6 drinks. That's 12. But he says he doesn't drink, but he drinks 18. You know what I mean? So, you see what I'm saying? It's people
someone in denial.
Perception of themselves and not realizing that they have an issue, and then, not dealing with it because they don't have an issue in their mind, air quotes, So that's kind of the mentality. And I know I keep going back to drinking, but that's because it's such an easy thing to go to because it's so much widely accepted. It's easier access. You can go into any convenience store or grocery store or liquor store and find it, you know what I'm saying? And it's cheap, it's available, it's everywhere, and nobody has an issue with it. But hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people die in automobile accidents caused by drunk drivers every year. And if not just complete hella damage. I caused probably $100,000 worth of damage whenever I got in my accident. And thankfully I had insurance or I would have been fucked for 5 years, you know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, it was still a lot to deal with. Thankfully it made me get a good job and I had, dealt with life. And, not everybody does that. Not everybody has those opportunities or, I had a brother-in-law who happened to be a foreman. So I had an in. Not everybody has that, So I feel lucky in that aspect that I fucking didn't kill somebody, didn't kill myself. So my daughter would have grew up without a father for, the rest of her life or whatnot. But I destroyed a car and some property and some bullshit, some power pole or whatever. But I still feel lucky in that situation that that's all that happened because it could have been much, much worse. And I'm thankful that at that point that I was kind of a lightweight drinker because I could have done like some of my friends where they drink and drive every fucking day. And eventually that shit's going to catch up to them. It happened to my stepdad,
Catch up with someone else that they hit and kill,
right.
Like,
well, I'm saying like they're going to either kill someone, kill themselves, or do some time or something, and it could be their first time or it could be their last.
I still think it's a little too punitive, even the DUI thing. You should not have been bent over for tens of thousands of dollars. They use that as a deterrent, just like they use like, oh, well, we're raising the price on cigarette taxes, to deter people. It's very punitive, and there's better solutions, and like suspending them from driving. Simply.
Yeah, I was suspended.
Their driver's license.
I was suspended from driving I had my license taken away for the first 90 days, and then for the next 9 months, I was only allowed to drive to and from work. If I got caught anywhere like outside of a route from my job to my house at between like a half hour before and a half hour out.
You needed to get gas, right?
Well, they're like, you could stop at the gas station on the way home type of shit. You know what I'm saying? So if I was literally anywhere outside of a basic straight line from my work to my house, or outside of that half hour window of getting to or from work, I was going to get in big ass trouble.
But the monetary punishment is bullshit. Like how does that, like completely. Somebody that has DUI that is not allowed to drive, they're like, you can't drive, like, unlike,
it's like the death,
some leeway there.
It's like the death penalty for murderers.
How are they supposed to order an Uber, a Lyft, or a taxi if they have to spend thousands of dollars on all these fines and everything? It's a double whammy towards the poor person or the middle class person. Like I think they'll learn their lesson if they're just not able to drive and do some community service or maybe jail, depending. That's why we have judges. But the monetary thing is just such bullshit because, like let's say you have a DUI, you're not allowed to drive, or I have a DUI, I'm not allowed to drive. How does it help me to order some safe transportation because I'm not allowed to drive? If I have to pay thousands of dollars a month or whatever payment plan you have set up, it doesn't help at all. All it does is it makes someone else rich, and that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's basically a damn racket about every local government that I can think of. Yeah, it's just it's easier to take it out on the people who are struggling already, and what are they going to do? Fight back? You know what I'm saying? Hire a lawyer to stop it from happening?
Oh, that's even more money.
They can't fucking afford it, right? So it's a no-win situation for a lot of people, and I totally understand why people turn to drugs and alcohol, because I did it myself, and not that it alleviated any situation, it felt like it did at the time. So it's like, a comfort for certain people. And, you know,
I've been tempted. I mean, don't get me wrong. I haven't fallen into like the meth or heroin kind of, thing, but I have been tempted, in the very dark times of my life. But I know that, like I struggle with cigarettes, and this has always been on my mind ever since I was like, I struggle so much with cigarettes that I really, if I did anything else, that would just fuck me up even more. And so I behave myself. But there's other drugs that I am willing to do, from ecstasy to acid or mushrooms or even DMT, ketamine. Weed is my thing. Although I do not do it here. I only do it off property, and I buy it and use it off property. Just to be clear about that.
Yeah, that's so sad.
I don't even really drink, but when I do, I had like a drink a few months back. I feel like dark matter. I think I mentioned it to you last time, but I had like 2 wine coolers, and I was like slurring and kind of like wobbly and everything, and just kind of, I kind of got that nice buzz going over like 2 wine coolers. And in fact, I think I was feeling it before I finished the first one. Like it was for my birthday, so I kind of felt like, fuck it, whatever. I'll get something that tastes good, that has a little alcohol, and yeah.
Yeah, and I really don't.
But, speaking of,
what's up?
Speaking of alcohol, like I really think one of 2 things needs to happen, because we send our young people that may not know better and kind of get tricked into joining the military. But if we're going to allow people at the age of 18 to join the military and risk their lives and maybe end their lives for our supposed freedom, I think they're just doing it for the profits of a few. But what's sold to us is freedoms. They're protecting our freedom, as if fucking the Taliban is on the shores of America. Like, go fuck yourself. But if they're allowed to do that, then they should, we should make an exception for them to be able to buy weed, cigarettes, and alcohol at 18, or we up the age to 21.
I was gonna go with your second option, but push it even further to like 25. Like they say that your brain isn't even fully developed till 25. So I was looking at going into the military at 17, and had I finished school, I would have fucking been sent off to the rat war, you know what I'm saying? So
I was about to join myself,
and so
I was on probation during that time, and they're like, we'll make this go away if you join. Like, it was a few years after I was on probation, but I was doing community service at this recruitment center, and they really wanted me to join, and I was really tempted to join. Like, this was right after 9/11, and was it after 9/11? No, I think it was before 9/11 actually. But I think 9/11 got me to rethink joining. Is actually what happened.
I think that helped a lot of people after that. But then it also helped a lot of people think the opposite because of all the propaganda behind the war in the first place. Because it's the terrorists versus us now, and it's not like a big ploy to get oil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or to drain them of the resources, other resources.
Or whichever resources, I'm just saying. But, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's sad. And I hate to see people get manipulated, that really, touches my heart. And I get pissed off, whether that's right or wrong. I think it's fine. It's fine for people to be pissed off. I see a lot of these protests from the general strike, and even all the way back in Occupy, Americans are pissed off. Now the corrupt have an interesting way of stopping these movements. But what they cannot stop is the way that people feel. And so there'll always be these movements, popping up here and there. They might be able to suppress some here and there, but just like, I've been raking leaves or sweeping them up. I don't have a rake. I've been sweeping up leaves here, and it seems like a never-ending battle. And I had some stupid ass neighbor be like, nah, it's pointless. And I'm like, no, man, eventually all the leaves are going to fall, and I'm going to keep sweeping them up. And eventually there's going to be no more leaves to sweep up. I can't say I'm going to get 100% of them, but I'm going to get most of them. And it's going to look nice, and we're not going to crack in that shit into our apartments. And I started sweeping in October when I had quit smoking. I had quit smoking in October, and I started again in the beginning of November, beginning of this month. But when I was trying to not have a cigarette, or I was going crazy, and I just started sweeping. That, and I did like all my neighbors' apartments, or at least like 2/3 of the complex here. There was some people way at the other end, and these people specifically don't like me. So I was like, I don't feel right. I'm doing it over there.
Well, I can I can totally see the mentality of how your policies would be implemented then, because check this out, your personality type alone, you obviously understand that preventative measures are better than treatment after. So if you're raking the leaves as they come, they don't accumulate and then get spread everywhere. You can get rid of them now, and then as they go away, they're gone. You know what I'm saying? So now,
it was slowly getting better and better and better.
Right, better and better.
And I'm losing these battles, but I'm going to win the war.
Actually progressing toward a better situation. Whereas a lot of people think, oh, it's just too overwhelming, you might as well not do anything about it. Well, that's how nothing gets fucking done. So, I feel like, especially with our drug policies, nothing ever gets done because they're like, oh, we'll just do it next round. We'll just do it next round. We'll talk about it, but we're not going to do it. We'll talk about it, but we're not. And then it's 40 years later and nothing has happened. You know, so.
I know. Oh, man. I feel like Merry Go Round should be like the America's New theme song or something, you know?
Yeah, and it baffles me that people aren't more pissed off. Like you said, people are pissed off. Well, why aren't people even more pissed off? Yeah, I understand they're pissed off about their job. They should be pissed off about not having their own ability to have recreation. Now, I understand during pandemic, you got to have certain regulations and whatnot. That makes sense. But like outside of that, before and whenever this, whenever we get through this and it basically becomes more of like a flu, you know what I'm saying? Where,
it's going to turn into an endemic, I think. But
right, eventually.
Like, I really hate how they politicize mask wearing, because that's pretty much the only thing that we could pretty much do to just kind of keep our germs to ourselves.
Well, everything,
it shouldn't be such a big deal, but it is. And it's been politicized.
Everything's being politicized, and that's really a big major point of this conversation is, if we were allowed to actually have the freedoms and liberties that we're supposedly have or expect that we have, then it would already have been taken care of long ago. And instead of it just being an ongoing, well, not enough people want it. Yeah, well, 60% of people say that they've either tried drugs or do it on a regular basis or, are exposed to it on a normal basis. You know what I'm saying? And they think it should be legalized and regulated. And that other 40%, a lot of them are lying. You know what I'm saying? Because have you been exposed to drugs? No. Do you know anybody that's on drugs? No. Do you know anybody that's ever needed help with drugs? No. So you don't know anybody or something? You know what I'm saying? Or you're lying.
Yeah, you live
or
under
you're
a
just
rock.
ignorant. Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, those type of studies, to me, never really make sense. Like, 2 million people worldwide smoke weed. Motherfucker, I know like 2,000 people that smoke weed. So you're saying I know like 10% of people or 1% of people of the entire world that smoke weed? That's crazy. It's got to be like 200 million or 2 billion. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. That's just...
I think presentation on these arguments, like against the war on drug, is a big thing, how we present it and how we're attacking our friends and our family is kind of how I'm presenting it. Get people to think, not to hate their neighbors, but to help them instead. And all this punitive stuff, that people need help, and we could be making a lot of money instead of spending a lot of money fighting this losing battle. Humans are always going to do drugs, so we might as well just make it safe and maybe regulate it and make some tax revenue off it, and do it in a smarter way instead of the stupid way. I hate to use that word. How dare I use stupid? But I'm going to use it because we are doing shit stupid, with the war on drugs and many other aspects. But yeah.
Right. Well, if we don't actually make progress toward any of those goals, then it just keeps turning up. And if we just constantly just push it to the back burner because, oh, we have these other issues that need to be taken care of. Well, did they forget that how much it helped out the economy as soon as it became recreational legal in California, like fully recreational?
Oh yeah, tax breaks.
Dude, they had like a surplus of tax money, and they were giving like extra money back to people for their tax returns and stuff like that because the government had so much extra. Maybe I'm thinking of Colorado. It might have been Colorado, but I'm pretty sure it was California. But either way, even in all the other states that this is happening, they're like, oh, we're taking in record amounts of tax revenue because of this legalization. Well, maybe if you did that, maybe if they did that across the board, then it would help out everybody a little bit more even, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
they don't really think about extrapolating that beyond this one thing, this one taboo thing that's been, you know, looked down upon for 100 years.
Selling it is with education, sadly, and that takes time. But I want to do this journey, and maybe in 10 years, when I am the president that people need me to be, because I'm not perfect today, but I can be with some help. But you seem to be the only person really caring about this.
There's people out there that care.
And thank you, by the way. Thank you so much. Like, this is so nice of you. Very therapeutic, and I really appreciate your time. And I know you're a very busy person, unlike my ass right now. I just have free time. I'm going to be protesting my sex club because I got nothing better to do, and it gives me a little bit of faith practice to do what I'm doing to get back into the game. Because I used to have a megaphone and I used to do shit out in Chicagoland, have my own little personal protests and shit with my signs. And going through all this trauma that I've been through, I've kind of got neutered a little bit, but I'm starting to find my balls again.
Yeah, there's been a lot of posts. There's no biggie. There's been a lot of posts going around on, you know, social media where it's like, well, get off this app and go do something. You know what I'm saying? Well, a lot of people are on this app and they're doing something. So like you obviously seem like, especially if you're going to protest anything, that's showing that you're getting involved in whatever community or whatever you're passionate about or whatever beliefs you may have or whatever that is, you know what I'm saying? Whereas most people, you know, they'll tweet out something, they'll throw something up on Facebook or Instagram or whatever and not worry about for another second after that if that affects anybody or if they're actually out doing it. Yeah, and then they'll tell you get off the app and go do something. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know, like, are you really having real conversations? Are you changing people's minds? Are you at least trying to discover what people have opinions or thoughts about? Or, you know, like, what is the general consensus of the people that you know? Is it bias in exactly what you think because you surround yourself with like-minded people? Or is it an array of people who all have similar but somewhat differing opinions on a lot of, you know, everything, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what it should be, I think, a spectrum, because that's how we learn. Sometimes I have an idea one day and then someone changes my mind later that day, and so the next day I'm not a totally different person, but on that subject I am.
I wanted to speak on that really quick. Like, my mind is not static, it is fluid, and I change my mind. And so, like, knowing this, or saying this, I don't even agree with 100% of my own tweets. I'm sure I could go back through my hundreds or thousands of tweets, but at this point,
and you'd end up deleting a lot of them. Like,
God, that was stupid.
Right?
Yeah, man, I done changed my mind since then. Fuck, you know. But and people might use that as, oh, you're trying to like play politics and manipulate because you said this one thing in 2011.
That's
and
called
now
evolving.
It's 2022.
Yeah, you evolved as a person.
Evolving and changing my mind.
Right. And a lot of people can't accept that because they've always been, this is the way it is, that's the way it will always be. But that's obviously the wrong mentality because everything changes over history. Technology has changed. The way we speak changed. The way we eat changed. The way we produce changes. You know,
Yeah.
Everything
It's all
obviously
evolving and fluid.
evolves and changes, but certain people's mentalities get stuck in a way, and that's why I think a lot of certain things are illegal, because we have a lot of judges that are extremely old that grew up in that, like you said, the was it Reefer Madness, and you know, they were propagandized to as young adults and children, and it influenced the way they feel about certain things, regardless of whether or not they're taking pharmaceuticals or drinking alcohol or doing whatever they're trying to ban, just because, like, you know, do as I say, not as I do type of shit, you know. So
yeah,
and that is completely confusing to the general population, because we all see it.
I see it as part of the old people kind of maintaining their world that they made instead of passing the baton down to the next generation. We got these old judges, and the population kind of feels a certain way, like the younger majority population feels a certain way, but the older population is like, no, you're gonna do things my way.
Here's the problem with that. There's not enough forward-thinking people of our age in the middle range, because if you think about it, most people aren't young. Once you get past a certain age, I know I'm old. Well, I wouldn't consider... What's that?
I'm 40. I'm old. Not like you kids.
I'll be 43 soon, so I don't really feel old. You're only as old as you feel like you are, and I feel like if you think and learn all the time and have new input and new ideas and use logic and reasoning in those ideas, you're gonna evolve and advance pretty easily and adapt to, you know, to society and the, you know, what's going on around you. You don't have to be woke or whatever, but you can be aware. And you know, so a lot of people just don't even take that into consideration, you know. And that concludes part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, and before you leave, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you already haven't, and hit that bell notification so you'll know when part 2 is coming out, or all the other videos that we'll be doing. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.